What's going on, you tripping tundra-dwelling tarantulas? Welcome to episode 18 of Total Pod Mode. My name is James, also known as Mr. Bames, and I am, as always, joined by, what was it? Wondrous Will?
Wondrous Will, I think, at this point.
Was that all we fell on?
Yeah, I guess.
I'm joined by Wondrous Will, also known as Who the Funk.
What's up, you rampant reformed rabbis?
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Giving it a go yourself, eh?
Don't accuse me of stealing the thunder, but I had to give it a go in light of the end of the Game Awards events that we witnessed about a week and a half ago now, is it, James? Bit behind the times on that, but the meme's not dead.
It will be by the time this comes out. Yeah. So, man, how you doing? How have you been since last week? Obviously, some things have happened. The Game Awards. I've sobered up. Good
Following
times.
your Christmas party, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been kind of fighting the festive spirit this week a little bit. I ended up in Spain over last weekend to see some family and had a nice little time.
Yeah. Few cervezas.
Few cervezas, por favor. We had some tapas, some tapes, as I like to call them.
Oh, some tapes.
Some tapes, yeah. We also ate Italiano, and we just did a lot of eating, basically. We also somehow ended up in a curry house. Got some nice chorizo bolti.
Oh, that sounds horrific.
Yeah, korma empanadas. Delicious.
I'm imagining like some sort of enchilada that it's a naan bread just like stuffed with like tikka meat with cheese on it or something.
Pretty much, it'll do.
To be fair, that actually sounds pretty good.
Yeah, man, you haven't lived until you tried a chicken tikka paella. Oh, oi.
I can see that.
It could work. That one could actually work, yeah.
All of this just works.
Nice, man, where it sounds like you chowed down, had some proper nice meals and stuff, and, you know, by all accounts, probably have a nice suntan there. I don't know why I'm saying probably. I can literally see you.
Yeah, I'm not really glowing, am I? Am I glowing?
You caught some colour.
A little bit of colour.
Wouldn't say like you're tan.
I feel like the sun has aged me a little bit.
You've been sun-kissed.
Sun-kissed. I'll take
little
it.
Peck.
Hey,
little peck.
Looking sun-kissed in December for an Englishman. It's not bad.
Not bad going at all. But yes, now that we've segued out of that really smoothly.
Are you sure about that?
Let's hit up those socials.
I didn't even ask you how you were, but
Do you want to ask me how I am?
Nah, let's just move on.
Oh, wow. You can, as always, find the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you find podcasts, really. Just search for Total Pod Mode and you're sure to find us. We also post regular video content of our playthroughs, stream highlights, as well as the podcast on our YouTube channel, Total Pod Mode.
You can also find us on Twitter by searching for @TotalPodMode, all one word.
And whilst you're there, you can find me at Mr. Bames, and I'm also on Twitch under twitch.tv/MrBames_TPM.
And you can find me at WhoDaFunk on Twitter, and I'm also on Twitch under twitch.tv/WhoDaFunk.
I'm fine, by the way. Thanks for asking.
Anyway, on to the catch-up.
So, Will, obviously had a little bit of time in Spain, as you mentioned in the start of the show there. Has that affected your ability to play some games, or have you been able to get some gaming in this week?
Yeah, I've definitely been able to put some time into the games this week. I've been mostly focusing on a lot of the same titles that I was talking about last week. I managed to squeeze in a little bit of time on Modern Warfare 2 last night, which was a little exciting. They've released a Season 1 mid-season patch. They've finally added the additional shipment map, which is a very tight, small map. I don't know whether you've previously played that. You may well have done.
They're the ones from the old Modern Warfares.
Yeah, old Modern Warfares. I think they may have appeared in some of the Black Ops titles as well, but it's like a very small map with cargo containers in the middle and you can run around in circles.
I definitely know it because I've heard shout-outs to George. I've heard George talk about how when he was grinding...
Yeah, right, it's just a dream map. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. You can just get an insane amount of kills on it.
Is it like Nuketown? Because Nuketown was like that as well.
It's much smaller than Nuketown.
Smaller than Nuketown? Oh, Jesus.
Way smaller than Nuketown. Yeah, definitely.
Because Nuketown are big.
Yeah, Nuketown's a very kind of, it's like a main sort of 3-lane kind of map.
It's
but
like
very
two
small,
buildings
compacted.
and then you've got the middle bit, yeah.
And then like the gardens behind them. This is a much more compact map in the sense that you're constantly being shot in the back and you're also constantly finding plenty of people to get around and hunt down.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I've been mostly kind of progressing with my knife at this point because it's just a great opportunity in shipment to essentially level up a lot of the weapons that are quite a ball ache to level up typically. So I managed to max level out the knife in just a single evening, sticking on a double XP token. And I also managed to unlock the gold skin for it, and that was all just in one evening, so very easy. That would have no doubt taken me a lot longer in the regular standard modes.
Yeah, and now you can run around calling yourself Golden Knife.
Absolutely, yeah, get that one-hit golden knife kill, sprinting around.
Is it one hit, is it?
Knife is a one-hit kill, yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't have the knife equipped though in your hands, you just melee them, and you have to do 2 melee hits, I think.
And can you dual wield knives yet?
No, not yet, but who knows what
That'd be
are the
dope,
future melee weapons in this. They did have those kind of like clubs that you could run around with in Modern Warfare 1, and I'd like to see some blades instead. That'd be kind of cool. I've heard that the tactical knife is coming back at some point, the knife that's sort of ejectable out of the handle, so looking forward to playing with that at some point again. Along with the addition of that map in the update, they've also included a kind of Rocket League game, believe it or not.
Right.
So they've actually got a game where you ride around, I think it's 3 versus 3 or maybe 4 versus 4, where you can actually drive quad bikes around a football pitch, and you have to knock a football into the goals, and it controls exactly how Call of Duty controls, so it's a little bit janky at first.
Right.
Takes quite a bit of practice. I would say it's definitely not as quite as easy to pick up and play as Rocket League, shall we say. I think that if this was the equivalent of Rocket League's initial attempt, let's just say I don't think it would have got off the ground. But for a Call of Duty thing, it's very novel. You can use a boost ability that recharges, and if you crash into a player, they blow up, very similar to Rocket League as well. And you can also pick up shock sticks as you drive around, and if you press a button, you'll be able to chuck one of those and sort of EMP the other vehicles as they go as well.
That's a proper gimmicky shit then.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. It's a gimmicky thing that goes along with the World Cup, and I think that actually I'm quite happy to see some sort of silly game modes added to Call of Duty. I'm all
We're not
for
talking
that.
about the World Cup anymore, though.
What do you mean after the event
not
that
talking about it.
we shall not talk? Okay, moving on. Anyway, I think that it's a nice sort of like a nice promotion for the event that we shall no longer mention. And
You can talk about the World Cup, it's fine. I've decided that I'm French.
Oh no, pas ça.
Right, okay. I think that it's just a nice fun thing for players to get into. If you're really stuck on playing Call of Duty, I suppose it's a bit of a diversion and a bit of a break you can take away from the regular modes. And I'm just keen to see them include a few more of those modes. I'm really quite badly missing Infection. I'd like to see that coming back in a update to come out soon.
Well, I'm sure there's every chance, man. I mean, the game's actually only been out, what, a couple of months? 3 months?
Something like that, yeah.
So there's still plenty of time for them to do stuff.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. They've already said that they're going to be supporting this game for 2 years, so just looking forward to what comes next. And I'm just glad to see that they're playing with this stuff already. It means that there's just going to be more to come. So good news with that update.
Yeah, so look forward to that being the new Gulag in Warzone.
Yeah. Oh my god, if you have to score a goal in Call of Duty Rocket League, my god.
Exactly. 1-on-1. Everyone has rocket launchers as well.
All of the spectators have rocket launchers instead of rocks.
Yeah. And it can't actually destroy the car, but it jumps them up in the air if you shoot it in front of them.
Yeah.
So if they're about to go through on goal and score, you can just sabotage them horribly.
I'd like to see it. I mean,
that sounds
like to
dope,
see
actually.
it. It sounds like an absolute nightmare to win.
Too time consuming for the Gulag too, but hey.
Yeah,
We can dream. We can dream.
Other than that, this week, I played a little bit of Stardew Valley. Not very much to say there. We're just about to approach autumn now. My hot chili pepper harvest was extremely bountiful. I've been going around the village and passing those bad boys out, and everyone's quite happy with me now. We're on better terms after
Except
the whole
for
fish
Pierre.
incident. Except Pierre. Pierre still gets his daily dose of algae and seaweed.
Nice.
And I haven't made much headway with Abigail at the moment. It turns out that she wasn't all that impressed by my foraged flowers that I'm just pulling out of the ground on my way to Pierre's. So
Really?
I mean,
Right.
like, the dialogue seems that she likes it, but it doesn't seem to be getting me anywhere in terms of, a relationship or
In terms of her calling you daddy,
her calling me daddy. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
which is obviously goal number 1 in the game.
Well, no, the goal number 1 in the game is to destroy Pierre, and I feel like telling him that fact will bring me one step closer to achieving that goal. The Abigail thing is it's a consequence of the tirade against Pierre that I'm currently.
Yes, there's no love. You're literally using her.
Absolutely. I do need to be clear that this is my Stardew character. This isn't.
Yeah, that's not going to make the edit. You're gonna sound like a monster.
So I got to level 50 in the mine though, which is pretty cool. I'm very happy with that.
Nice.
I've finally got some actually decent weapons now. I got myself a catapult. I got myself a scimitar, which I brought from the Adventurers Guild after you get
There's an
further...
adventurers guild?
There's an Adventurers Guild that I think as you progress further down into the mine, they start selling you better things that you can then equip
Right.
yourself with. I got some combat boots, and I also got some tundra boots, which I can only assume increase your cold resistance or something like that. So I've actually dug so deep into the mine now that I've now ended up in kind of like an ice realm instead of like an underground tunnel sort of thing.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's cool. And I reckon that there's probably about 100 levels to the mine all in all, just looking at, they have a level counter and there's about half of the board still remaining. So I'm going to go ahead and
Right.
guess there's 100 levels.
Do they have like, not necessarily bosses, but do they have sort of big enemies down there? Or is it just mobs?
The biggest enemy I've found so far, there is a giant slime, but that's about the biggest thing I've seen so far. The rest of everything is just mobs. There's bats, there's zombies, there's little blob things that kind of look like slimes.
So you're probably not going to get yetis or abominable snowmen or anything like that.
I really don't know. Yeah, I think like I said last week, I'd really like to see a boss or some sort of larger enemies and things like that. It'd be really cool if that was the final boss, but I guess in my mind, if I'm halfway there, something tells me that if I haven't seen anything yet, it could well be unlikely.
Fingers crossed. You never know. Pierre could still be the final boss. Or it's Abigail all along and she just knows your plan.
Oh, wow. Well, she's been using me all along, in fact, actually, because she also hates Pierre. She just wants to torture him by dating the village drunk, because that's kind of all I am at the moment. I mean, I'm meant to be a farmer, but I just kind of wander around, getting boozed up, digging in the mine, and giving people fish and assorted vegetables. It's kind of a weird guy. Weird life that you live in that Stardew Valley.
Hey, every town needs one, mate. Everyone needs a village nutter.
Well, yeah, I thought Linus was going to fulfill that role initially in the game, but it turns out that it was me all along, actually. Linus is a pretty steady guy, and he basically just survives on foraging and lives in a tent on the outskirts of town.
Yeah, no, I feel like there's something to him.
He's actually, I think he's like God or something. I think that he's actually...
There's going to be something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, he's like a physical embodiment of a deity just on Earth.
Yeah, or he's dead.
I see dead people.
So that was pretty much me for the week, man. What about you?
I have obviously been doing the challenge that you sent me last week, which has taken up some of my time. But other than that, I have cracked on a little bit with Final Fantasy 12. Which I discussed last week.
Very good. How you been getting on with it?
It's going well, man. I don't know if there's too much I can say that wouldn't be repeating what I said last week, because I was still treading over ground that I'd done before. I think I mentioned on last week's pod that I had gotten to pretty much where I thought I'd gotten up to as a kid. But it turns out that must have actually gotten a little bit further than I thought I had back in the day, because the next sort of couple of bits that I got to, I was like, this rings a bell. But then I finally surpassed that, and I'm now starting to do stuff that I don't think I've done before.
Ah, cool. You finally hit that point now. It's new content as far as you're concerned.
Well, hopefully. I'm a little bit worried that I might get past the bit I'm currently in, and then it's like, oh, no, actually, I do remember
You'll
this.
fight a certain boss and be like, fuck, yeah.
Or I'll enter an area and be like, no, I have explored here before. Because there's one boss that I distinctly remember doing as a kid that I haven't got to yet.
Huh. Do you think that's your kid brain lying to you, or do you think that's like...
No, I remember it clear as day.
Right.
Clear as day. Because it's not like kid brain, it's like, 15, 16-year-old brain.
Oh, right. Hey, man, around that age, I'm sure things were pretty hazy.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a hunters guild in the game, and they give you sort of bounties, essentially.
Right.
That you can go and do at any point in the game, and as far as I'm aware, any point in the game anyway. And they give you sort of just a few extra prizes, like some money, some cool items, or some unique crafting stuff. And I don't know if it's one of them, and I just haven't unlocked it yet, or if it's actually a mainline boss. So it'd be interesting to see, because there's still a couple of hunts that I haven't done that I had done both back in the day and also in my more recent playthrough on Xbox a few years ago. So there's definitely still bits that I need to do that I haven't done, but in terms of main story, I think I'm finally seeing some progress, man. I think it's getting to new territory. It's still good story. I still remember like most everything at the moment. So as I say, if I crack on in the next few weeks, then there may be more to discuss when the story sort of kicks into a bit more of new territory for me and there's some excitement going. But yeah, that's really all there is. Because other than that, I just played a little bit of Lost Planet, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing more when you do progress a little bit more in the game.
Well, now that we're all caught up, I think it's about time we see how we got on with our predictions last week and also chat a bit about some gaming news. So our first news story of today, one that I'm sure has got the wondrous Will over here very excited.
Oh yes, I've been looking forward to speaking to you about this one.
Kojima Productions is making a Death Stranding movie.
Ooh.
Now, contrary to Mr. Hideo Kojima's normal ways of going on, this is not just some bullshit speculation. Kojima Productions has actually entered into a partnership with Hammerstone Studios, and they're teaming up to bring the hit video game Death Stranding to the big screen. Apparently, this isn't going to be a like-for-like sort of movie of the game.
Okay, yep.
They're going to feature new elements and characters, but it's going to be in the world of Death Stranding. And crucially, for all you Kojima Studios fans out there, and probably you as well, Will, Hideo Kojima is going to be guiding the project.
Creatively involved somehow.
Exactly.
Right. Is he creative director? He hasn't been given that title yet. He's a consultant on the set, I guess, similar to how Druckmann was involved with the Last of Us HBO series. I imagine he'll be like a consultant.
Yeah, I mean, it says in the article from PC Gamer, shout outs, that he's going to be working closely with Hammerstone's Alex Lebovici, the producer of films including Bill and Ted Face the Music, Barbarian, and Boy Kills World.
Bill and Ted Face the Music, that's the most recent Bill and Ted movie, isn't it? It is. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I haven't seen any of the Bill and Ted films.
Right,
I'm like,
right.
as you know, but as our listeners probably don't know, I'm like the worst with films. any film where you go like, oh yeah, everyone has seen this film, I probably haven't seen it.
The anti-movie buff.
Yeah, but it's not for a dislike of movies.
No.
I just don't watch movies that much.
Yeah. It's not your preferred medium. And, this is a gaming podcast, so unsurprisingly, we like to play games.
Yeah, I'm really keen to hear your thoughts about this because I know that Death Stranding is one of your favourite games.
It is indeed, yeah.
I want to know what you think about potential things that could happen in the world.
So I'm really interested to hear more about the movie and what they actually do with this. I'll be interested to see whether they go down the whole what's behind the Death Stranding approach on the movie, or whether they'll just go into the more kind of what it is living in the harsh reality of the world. I'm sure that they'll factor in both of those things, but I'm just interested to see how that is drip fed throughout the movie and whether there will be the same sort of revolutions in the game. You would hope to think that if you had played the game, you would still have some surprises left for you in the movie.
Does the world allow that sort of thing? I mean, I've played the first hour or two of Death Stranding, and I think we've spoken about it. I got nowhere, right?
Yeah.
Does the way that the world develops and stuff lend itself to being able to give further surprises and things like that? I imagine it does, because I mean, you've got things like babies being life, or f***ing whales dropping out the sky, or whatever the shit happens in that game. So I imagine there is stuff that you could play with.
Absolutely. I would say that, in terms of questions left unanswered from the first game, there were an absolute ton of questions that you could sort of suppose at and spend ages talking about with someone else who completed the game. But at the same time, I think that, absolutely, they've got plenty of space to just invent new things. Essentially, at this point, it'll be interesting to also see where this takes place, because, we'll see how it looks after the events of Death Stranding 2, which we got a glimpse of at the Game Awards. Will this be set prior to Death Stranding 1? Will this be set post Death Stranding 1? Because, there's obviously significant events that take place during that game. So it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out in the movie.
No, yeah, I'm curious to see how it all plays out, man, because as I say, I don't know too much about it, but what I have seen, I'd be very curious to see what you could do with that as sort of the backdrop to your plot line. I mean, things like, and this is really early game stuff, I know, but things like the rain sort of hurting everyone.
Yeah, it's kind of a problem.
Yeah, and the sort of dark Slender Man looking beings that come out and do stuff.
Yeah.
It'd be really interesting to see what they can do with those. And obviously you can tell I'm an absolute noob, because I'm sure there's like some really good explanation for all of that in the game that I'm just not aware of. But
that's kind of what I meant when I said about where the storyline lands. It could have some real implications for what's actually going on at the time. It'll be interesting to see in terms of, as you said there, what they do within the backdrop, within the kind of the established environment of Death Stranding sort of thing. And it'll be interesting to see what they do there, because to me, that's the most concerning thing, is Death Stranding does seem a little bit all over the place, but at the end of the day, there is very much a focus on a single goal, and that does lead you to find out a lot more about the game, and it does all relate to the Death Stranding. Whereas if they're using the Death Stranding more as a backdrop, and they're just trying to tell all these different stories of different characters, I'm not convinced that would go down so well, and I think that would be quite concerning.
Hard for me to give too much more opinion or context to having not played the game at all, but I'm imagining that this isn't going to be Norman Reedus, and if that's the case, do you think they would try and build in loads of different characters so they could all have different arcs in later films or things like that? I mean, it's a tough one.
Yeah, I think they could certainly build in different characters, but they would have to, they could be other people with dooms, which is the kind of, I don't know, the equivalent of the Death Stranding equivalent of nano machines in Metal Gear Solid. It's just kind of...
so nonsense.
You get kind of special powers, kind of.
Yeah.
So there's lots they can do with that. So yeah.
Watch this space, I guess.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for it. Cautiously optimistic is the best way to describe that, I think.
Yeah. Code 4, please don't f it up. Okay, moving on to story number 2 this week. Streamers are sick of gaming, Will.
Oh, what will they ever do? Is Dr. Disrespect climbing in a hot tub now, or what's happening?
Well, funnily enough, Dr. Disrespect is one of the people quoted as saying this.
All right, okay.
So, article from our good friends at The Gamer, because we know them really well. We don't, but that's fine.
We much prefer the Gamer rant.
Yeah,
The Gamer
shout
rant
outs to Gamer
is,
rant.
yeah.
No articles this week, but
Sorry, the
shout
Gamer,
outs.
but
Yeah. You're cool too, but you know.
you
there's
just know
levels to
Gamer
this.
rant.
Yeah, exactly. Get an animal in your name, then we'll talk. But according to their article here, several streamers have reported boredom and disillusionment with the current state of gaming.
Oh dear.
As I mentioned, Dr. Disrespect is one of the people who's been quoted as having this opinion, but also as part of the collected responses in a tweet that went viral this week, apparently. Hungrybox and Shroud are also of the same opinion.
Right, okay.
The general sort of consensus on this seems to be that new games coming out are just the same as old games that have been. There's nothing new. It's all sort of samey, which I don't particularly agree with.
It's not particularly true, no. I think that this was kind of my main observation here when you mentioned some of those names. No offense to any of these guys, given we're no spring chickens ourselves, but a lot of these guys are in their late 20s. I mean, Dr. Disrespect is, I think, in his 40s.
I was going to say he's middle aged.
He's late 30s, 40s, I think. But I just think that this is kind of just a symptom of getting older a little bit. You know, like I think that this is just a symptom of people that have played games for a long time, particularly as part of a job and part of a career.
Yeah, up to 8 hours a day.
Yeah, absolutely. Just becoming a little bit disillusioned with the games coming out and becoming a little bit sort of jaded, I guess.
That's kind of exactly where my thought process with this is. I mean, don't get me wrong, like if I'm having a proper gamer session, like I can spend 8 to 10 hours gaming a day, right? But not every day, 7 days a week.
Also, having to do it as a streamer as well, it's a very different level of immersing yourself in the game.
Particularly someone like Dr. Disrespect, who literally plays a character. Like, it's not even remotely the guy.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
sure.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, maybe it's just him dialed up to 10, but, you know, he's really, really putting on. Like, you know, Shroud is still Shroud the guy.
Yeah.
He'll still have that streamer sort of act, if you like.
Cadence.
Because you do. Yeah, cadence and then, you know, mannerisms and things, because you have to, but it's not like someone like Dr. Disrespect. I imagine that's tiring as fuck, man, honestly.
Yeah, man, I think this is kind of just one of those things that a lot of people feel in terms of that, and you know, in terms of getting a bit tired of playing games. And yeah, unsurprisingly, but I don't think this does paint any sort of concerning picture of the future of gaming or anything like that.
As you say, it's probably a bit of them just being jaded, potentially getting a bit older. I mean, who knows? It could also be the fact that these guys are very, 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 very good gamers indeed, obviously. Maybe they're just so good that things don't challenge them anymore and it's not as exciting. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's kind of, that was actually more why I was referencing age, as opposed to the fact that they're older. It was more the fact that therefore they have seen so many games throughout their life and seen where everything comes from, where every single thing is borrowed from, that nothing is really new anymore unless, you know, a brand new concept is released that everyone goes crazy about for a short while. But typically that's a gimmick now, as opposed to something that's actually a game changer, you know?
Yeah, like Octopus Dad.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's going to keep the streamers busy for like a couple weeks or something like that, but it doesn't have the same longevity that games like Apex Legends and Call of Duty and Fortnite and things like that have.
Yeah. So, moving on to our final news story, and I say news story slightly tongue-in-cheek, because
we're a bit behind the times.
News, it is news, but it's more...
It was news.
It's more it was news and seeing whether we know anything about gaming or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Will and I made some predictions for the Game Awards. Now, a little bit of context. We were recording on the evening of the Game Awards, so this was before we had any sort of inside knowledge, even though the episode did come out on Monday. And we didn't do too badly, really, between us.
I'm quite happy to see that actually from this list, we got a lot of these right.
Yeah.
Even begrudgingly, some of them, we were kind of like, yeah, I guess that's probably going to get it. We'd like to see this one, but yeah.
Yeah. You know, well, let's review a few of what we said and what actually happened.
Take it away, James.
Best art direction. I personally said that it would probably be Ragnarok, but I'd give a shout out to Scorn.
Yeah, and I kind of agreed with you there. I would have
Yeah.
liked to have seen Scorn win this one, but I thought that it was likely that either Elden Ring or God of War were going to take this.
I was going to say, and you actually specifically called out Elden Ring, which was the eventual winner of this award. Now, I didn't get it right, but I have absolutely no issue with Elden Ring winning it. I think I said that it does have a very good art direction, but it's just, in my opinion, Scorn had a better art direction for what it was trying to achieve. But Elden Ring, very worthy winner. Next, we had Best Ongoing Content. I believe that you said that it would either be Apex Legends or Final Fantasy XIV, and I said that I thought it would either be Fortnite or Destiny 2 because they're popular, and I had nothing else to go on. And I'm pleased to say that Final Fantasy XIV did indeed win it, so well done, Will.
Yeah, no, I'm really pleased to see that title getting it, considering that, we'd spoken about this a little bit earlier the year on the podcast. I think this is an absolutely worthy winner. Very glad to see it. I'm surprised that Genshin didn't come a little bit closer, but I think that, Final Fantasy XIV, absolutely the one to go for.
Yeah, and might actually check it out at some point. Best ongoing content, you mentioned there's loads of DLC everyone's happy with.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, we should definitely hook that up at some point. I could guide you through the path to Bardship.
Next, we have Best Action Game, another category that I didn't really have too much input on, having never played any of the games. I thought that it should probably be Sifu based on what I knew. But once again, Will, you were correct. You called Bayonetta 3, and sure enough, Bayonetta 3 won.
Boom!
Yeah, well, that was a game that my vote there was based purely on the sort of the crazy events that take place in the first couple games, the over-the-top levels of action. I think we said last week, actually, that the lack of action going on in Modern Warfare 2 kind of probably ruled that out in terms of the campaign. And Bayonetta was just absolutely insane in the first two titles that I played. So, yeah. Absolutely, it seems like that would be the way to go.
Once again, a correct prediction. You must be Paul the Octopus reincarnated.
Pat on the back, get my gold stars. They're meaningless.
Absolutely meaningless, but bit of clout, never hurt. And I'm pleased to say that the streak continues, Will, because next we had Best RPG. We both said that it was going to be Elden Ring, and anything else winning it would be a lack of credibility to the award, given the other options, apart from maybe Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's a game that sort of neither of us have played, but I think that's got some serious might behind it. It would have been a travesty in my eyes if Legends Arceus won that award, because that would have just solidified my opinion that it was a popularity contest over anything else.
Yeah, and I'm a massive Pokemon fan, and I completely agree with you. I didn't see it winning, and it shouldn't have won. And it didn't, so that's good. Another award for Elden Ring as well, which did very well at this show.
It did. It was tucking them away, Miyazaki.
Yeah.
Good job, good man, Miyazaki.
Well done.
Well done, Michael Zaki.
Brother of ex-Egyptian football player Miyazaki.
What the are you talking about?
Next, we had Best Multiplayer. Now, this is one where neither of us did particularly well, actually, because I thought it'd be Modern Warfare 2. You thought it would probably be Modern Warfare 2, but you wanted it to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge.
That was my hope, yeah.
Because it's a couch co-op, and that would have been lovely.
Just love to see a co-op, yeah.
But in fact, Splatoon 3 was the winner of this one.
Which was a big surprise to me as well. I think we both know that, it's the Splatoon series is a popular Nintendo franchise sort of thing. It does draw in players, but no, I was not expecting that in terms of multiplayer. Fair play to the team involved.
Next was the big one, Will. The game of the year itself. And whilst I'm very happy that the game that won it, I am a bit surprised, I've got to say, even though it was one of the biggest games of the year.
Yes, I agree with you there.
Elden Ring obviously won the award, and congratulations. It's fully deserved. I'm not taking anything away from it.
Yeah, massive applause to Miyazaki there.
Yeah, and the rest of the FromSoft team. But we both thought it would probably be God of War Ragnarok. I am surprised, but pleasantly surprised, and not super surprised. Not like surprised like I was with Splatoon 3, but nice to see Elden Ring winning it, because I think, as I mentioned on last week's pod, it's been out longer. It's been out since February, and it's an excellent game. I don't think I know anyone I know people that have been disappointed with certain aspects of it, but I don't think I know anyone that has not enjoyed the game at all.
Yeah, I think in the back of my mind, if God of War took this, there would be something that would kind of be whispering, was this recency bias? Also, it's just nice to see a game that is slightly less story driven than God of War, which, has sort of pipped previous titles, I think, based on values like that.
Yeah.
It was actually nice to see something that is just, in my eyes, kind of like a pure video game. And, again, we're both sung God of War praises till the cows come home, but it's nice to see something that doesn't shove a storyline down your throat and force you to sit through cutscenes, and it's just a pure game sort of thing. And yeah, really nice to see that take home an award like that. The Game of the Year. Congrats
Exactly.
again.
And FromSoft kind of killing it. 2 Game of the Years in the last 5 years.
Damn straight.
Both in the ones that you could jump in as well. Interesting.
Take that back to Armored Core, jumping robots now.
I think Armored Cores can jump, can't they?
Probably, yeah. They got jetpacks, but now, yeah.
I feel like I had Armored Core 2 on the PS2.
I don't know whether I ever owned one. I certainly played demos for them, though.
Yeah, but it was just like an arena fire.
Right, okay. There were
Did you
single
actually
players.
no, there were missions as well, actually. No, I'm lying. But
Yeah, I was
just
playing
did
a
the
campaign.
arena.
Right,
I just did the arena because it was fun. Oh, dear. Well, tangent. And the final category that we made a prediction on was the most anticipated game, and we both got this one right. So
Again, a pat on the back for both
big
of
pats
us.
on the back. So obviously we mentioned what our own personal preferences were. So I was most looking forward to Hogwarts Legacy, and Will's most looking forward to Resident Evil 4. But this was won by Legends of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and probably rightly so. Because
I think
as
so
I
too,
said
yeah.
last week, everyone is fucking looking forward to this game.
Except you.
Except for me, yeah.
No, yeah, I think as you say, complete lack of surprise at this award. Of course, The Legend of Zelda was going to take it home. It's. Would you say this is the largest video game franchise out there?
By out there, do you mean in the list?
In the list, yeah. Oh,
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't mean of all time Zelda biggest franchise?
Out there on the list.
Yeah. In terms of gaming, obviously Starfield's new IP, so that obviously
No,
doesn't
yeah.
come into it. I think Zelda's probably bigger than Resident Evil.
It's certainly older.
Certainly older, yeah. Harry Potter games, yes. Harry Potter, the actual franchise, probably not.
It's hard to say, isn't it? Yeah.
And Final Fantasy's actually really tough. I couldn't call that.
It's one of the two, isn't it, in terms of brand recognition for video games. I suppose the reason why I asked that was just to see sort of whether you thought that any of those were likely. I mean, I know we mentioned Final Fantasy 16 being, a big name, but we both agreed last week that the fact that neither of us were aware of it prior to the announcement of the Game Awards, neither of us picked that title.
No, yeah, but I think it came second.
Did it really? Right.
I don't know if
Okay.
when I looked at the list of winners, it was like it had the winner and then a vertical list below. I don't know if that was in order. But Final
Right,
Fantasy 16 was second
right.
on that list.
Okay.
So I remember
I think-
thinking, damn, we really did drop the ball on that particular game then, yeah.
So our judgment of existing franchises is pretty decent, but we are out of touch, my guy. We missed a mainline numbered Final Fantasy title.
Yeah, I mean, knew about Thymesia and Steel Rising. Didn't have a clue about Final Fantasy 16. Oh well. Point is, we got the prediction right, so I guess go us, really. At least one of us got it right on all of them except for the best multiplayer. Of the ones we predicted, of course. So, yeah, go us.
And I thought, as a whole, the event was quite enjoyable to watch. Full cards on the table, I still do have sort of the last 30 minutes of it to watch, given that sort of I was in Spain and getting ready to go. I didn't manage to cram all of it in. It also,
How long's
I think,
the show?
it was like 3.5 hours, I think, or something like that.
So I've got that much left to watch.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't think it applies, but they were giving away Steam Decks every minute of the show. And
really?
that was something that Jeff Keighley mentioned, just because one thing that happened during the show was that Christopher Judge won the voice actor role for Kratos during that performance. And my God, his acceptance speech was long. I think it was coming up for 10 minutes almost.
Oh, really? I don't.
It really went
I'd read
on.
that it was. I'd read that it was going viral. I didn't know what for.
Yeah, and it almost felt like, when they start playing someone off, it almost felt like he just treated the playing off music as just a fancy, exuberant backdrop to continue his speech. He really kind of got into it more. He was not going to be silenced. And then as he walked off stage, Keighley said something like, I think Chris was trying to get people a few more Steam Decks, extending the runtime of the show. So yeah, I got to say, I did. Sorry, Christopher Judge. I hope he doesn't listen to this, but I hope he does.
I hope he does. Yeah.
But I hope he doesn't
Well-deserved
take
winner,
offense
might
at
I add.
this. Yeah. Oh,
That's
absolutely.
not. That's not just me saying that to cover up what Will's just said. Genuinely well-deserved winner. I don't know who else was nominated, but his voice acting in God of War is excellent, sublime.
Absolutely. And in terms of the fact that he did actually replace the pre-existing character, he absolutely pulled off that role for the revitalized series of God of War. And
Yeah.
I think that in my head now, that voice represents Kratos. So yes, absolutely. He has become that character in my head. Also, I think that there was a couple of titles along the Game Awards that were shown as world premieres that I was quite excited about. There was a game called Post Trauma that looks pretty cool. It gave me very strong sort of Silent Hill vibes. Lots of kind of mixtures of decaying looking environments, bathrooms and apartment corridors and things mixed with disturbing imagery and sort of like stuff that absolutely doesn't look like it should belong within this world.
Nice.
Very interesting, very creepy. And that
Very
looked,
right up your street.
yeah, 100%. It was it looked very mind-bendy and like you were walking through someone's warped perception
Nice.
of reality. So very, very cool.
Hell yeah. There's one game that I know that was announced that I'm very excited for. I wonder if it's on your list.
Well, so the other game that I was quite excited for at the time was Judas. It looks like a kind of a
Ooh.
space Bioshock. And also the creator of Bioshock, Ken Levine, is also involved in this game as well. So yeah, you can certainly tell which kind of angle they're coming from with that. You can see that they've got some sort of equivalent of the plasmids that you can shoot out your hand. We see them shoot out electricity and fire. They're fighting a lot of robot enemies, and it looks phenomenal. Honestly, the graphics and the animations look very unique and very interesting. So yeah, another 2 games on my list that I'm now looking forward to.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with space. You can do some like anti-gravity plasmid.
Well, I saw some anti-gravity looking stuff, so yeah.
Hell yeah.
What was this game that you were looking forward to then?
Remnant 2 has been announced.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I don't think I've got that far. Maybe I stepped away from the TV.
Spoiler alert.
Wow, okay, that's some cool news.
I didn't look too much into it because I want it to be a bit of a surprise. Obviously, we completed Remnant from the Ashes as part of your gaming challenge. And I love that game. I've got a real soft spot for it. So I'm very curious to see if they can build on it, add things to sort of keep it a bit fresh and, fingers crossed, a block and a parry for the melee. But yeah, I'm curious to see what they do with it. It looks really cool.
That's some really cool news, yeah, and one that I wasn't aware of before we started recording. So yes, another thing to look forward to. So we've got three decent games there looking to turn out, and I'm sure as I round and finish off the rest of the stream that I still need to go back and watch, we'll see more.
Yeah, exactly, man. I can't wait to see more of it either. So fingers crossed it comes out soon, then we can get on that bad boy. That's the news for this week. Did well on the predictions, as I say. It's almost like we know what we're talking about, man.
Almost,
but not quite. But with that, it's time to move on to what we didn't really advertise but we sort of looked back and did the count back and the maths. This was actually the last gaming challenge of the year.
This is the finale, the very poorly advertised and thought out finale.
Yeah. And it's sort of a winner takes all because Will had drawn it level last week. So let's talk about this more on the
Games Challenge!
So as I was literally just saying, Will managed to get the win, the big old W last week.
Fatty dubs for Wondrous Will.
Oh yeah, triple W.
I'm owning it now.
www. He's a website now.
Computer says no.
And as a result of that, it drew us back level. So this challenge was a big one. It was one where if I win, I take home the bacon, I get the glory. But if I lose, sudden death, baby.
James becomes the champion for another year if he wins this challenge. So I'm really hoping that actually looking at the playtime that is required by this game, that you had some sort of PC blackout or something.
There's a few factors that we should probably mention to build some tension into this, right? We are actually recording a day or so earlier than we normally would.
Yeah, that's
because of
very
various things. And I was editing this weekend just gone. So I did lose. I've probably lost a couple of days of challenge time this week.
True. At least, yeah.
So
There's a chance still.
there have also been 2 World Cup semi-finals on this week, which I have watched.
You've had a lot in the way, right?
So couple that with the fact that I've said I've played some Final Fantasy already. Have I got enough hours to have completed this challenge? We'll soon find out.
Really? Can you feel the tension?
So James, take it away. How did you find the games challenge this week?
I was given the challenge of playing Lost Planet, the first one. I believe it's called Conditions Extreme or Extreme Conditions.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
The reason being that it's very cold here in England at the moment, and Will thought that it was appropriate given that this whole game is set on a big old snowy planet.
Big old frost planet, yeah.
So-
Better keep that thermal energy topped up.
Yeah, kill some things and collect their blood and gives you heat.
Yes.
Good times. So this game is a third-person shooter for the most part, but it does also have sort of mech combat. They're called VS suits, I believe, which we mentioned last week.
That's right. Vital suits, I think.
Yes, vital suits. And the first thing I'll say about this game is that you didn't tell me that it was an anime game.
Yeah, it's very heavily Japanese design sort of thing.
Yeah.
You can certainly tell that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I say that tongue in cheek because it's not anime. It's very sort of, normal graphics, for lack of a better term. But the way the characters develop and the storyline is all so Japanese anime, and I wasn't prepared for that.
Right.
If I had been, I would have changed it to Japanese.
Okay.
But so I kept it in English the whole time. But
you had to deal with the horrible English dub.
yeah, it was awful. But at first, I thought it was just the game being shit.
Right.
And I don't necessarily mean that as in the game shit.
The game being corny.
One thing well, yes, but also I will say off the bat, I don't think this game was particularly well optimized for PC.
Oh, right. Okay.
Either that, or because I don't know. I was getting 120 frames out of it, which
Right.
might be more than the game was perhaps designed to do.
Yes, occasionally you do.
So there
run
were
into
bits
issues
where,
like
if a big acrid, which is the sort of insect buggy animals that inhabit the planet that you're killing a lot of the time, if they do a big slam attack, where the graphics would bring up the sort of slight crater that's made and some shock waves where it's hit, that would bug out the screen.
Oh, okay.
And make everything really shaky and stuff. And where they did smoke animations, it sort of really blinded everything. It was
Right.
realistic, don't get me wrong, in the smoke one specifically, but it was kind of odd with the slam one and the screen. I don't know if I think it was probably more to do with the frames. If I'd capped it at 30, I think it probably would have been fine.
Yeah,
But
interesting.
it didn't happen often enough for me to worry too much, really.
Sacrifice that delicious 120 FPS.
No, because the game looks good.
It does. Oh, good. I'm glad that you thought that because I remember it looking very good, sort of thing, for its time, and still good looking back on it now.
Some of the animations are a bit janky, sure, but the character models are pretty good for the most part.
I would compare some of the animations almost similar to Monster Hunter. They're a bit janky, but they have their charm.
I'd compare it to Monster Hunter in that regard, but in terms of the actual animations themselves, Monster Hunter is vastly superior.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
But
no doubt.
in terms of what you mean, I
Yeah.
agree with that. Although the graphics did look good, though, I've got to say the cutscenes were kind of not great for the most part. And this was sort of, I guess, the anime styling a little bit. They tried to inject emotion in it and humor in it, but they did it in a really cheesy, corny way. That if it had been cartoon anime characters would have been awesome, but because it was realistic humanoids, it didn't look great sometimes. And also with the English voices,
Didn't sound great either.
Didn't sound great either. So you sort of look past that. Really, it was fine, and the story itself was very cool. The TLDR version is that you are a colonist, essentially. You're part of a human team that's gone to this frozen planet to try and make it habitable. And your whole squadron gets attacked by a particularly large acrid called Green Eyes, because guess what? He has green eyes. Who'd have thought? This big motherfucker kills your dad, and you think that he's killed you, but what actually happens is you get frozen in your VS suit.
That's right.
And then you get found by a bloke called Yuri, and he is a sky pirate. No, that's Final Fantasy 12, sorry. He's a snow pirate.
Get him, Graham!
And he takes you to his little crew and sort of nurses you back to health. And then you join his little crew and you start doing these little skirmishes where you're trying to take out Acrid and get more thermal energy and sort of clear out other snow pirates who are the bad guys and whatnot. You think you've been deceived because you find some evidence that suggests that he's working for an evil corporation called NEFFEX. And these NEFFEX guys are basically trying to set in motion a huge thermal energy reaction that will heat up the entire planet, killing everything that's on the planet initially,
Naturally.
but then cooling down enough so that it could then be habitable by humans.
Right, so they're essentially trying to sort of make it much more of a regular paradise, like a holiday retreat sort of island, instead of your snowy, harsh environment.
Yeah, and they don't want no buggy acrids, they just want evil humans.
Right, and no space pirates, more importantly.
No, except for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, they just don't call themselves space pirates anymore.
No, exactly. But no, so that's sort of the bare bones of the story. There's other stuff that happens. There's revelations. There's relationships formed.
Love blossoms on the battlefield.
Some twists. some turns. But I think we should probably talk about the gameplay a bit more first. And this is where the game both excelled itself in a number of ways, but also let itself down in a number of ways.
Okay, do tell.
So you can't sprint in this game at all,
No,
which
that's
is an absolute travesty.
You are wading through kind of hip height snow a lot of the time, though.
Yeah, but even when you're inside buildings, you can't sprint.
Yeah, I'll take that.
And you can't even sprint in your mech suit either, really. You can sort of glide depending on which mech suit you get, because there's 4 or 5 different variants, I'd say.
That's right, yeah.
But that was irritating. It wasn't a game breaker, but it was slightly irritating when one of the core mechanics of this game is your thermal energy is constantly running out, and when it gets to 0, you die.
Yep.
If you're outside, of course, it turns out, because it did run out inside once and I survived.
Yeah.
Who thought? Who
Yeah.
knew? You can't aim.
No.
You can only aim with the stick. Again, not a massive game breaker, but would have been useful in a few situations, particularly as you get a sniper, but then you can't aim down the sights. Kind of weird.
Hang on, was there not that? You can still aim through the scope, though, right?
No, not that I didn't work out a way to do it.
Ah.
I didn't really use it, to be fair, but
I wonder if it was a bit of a symptom of an older control scheme there, and also coming from a time before aiming down the sights was standardized. From memory, this was quite an early 360 title.
06, 07, I think it was.
Yeah, it's got some age on it.
Yeah.
It looks better than its age, for sure.
It does look better than its age,
It
that's
doesn't
true.
control, though. Better than its
Yeah.
age.
Well, it doesn't control badly. It's just the things that would have been nice that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't remember aiming down a sight or anything like that either, but it just sounds, I would be surprised if there wasn't some sort of scoped thing with the sniper, but again, if you weren't using it much, doesn't surprise me.
So yeah, you only really need the main machine gun. You don't
Yeah,
need anything else, really, to be honest with you. And that sort of brings me on to another thing that was disappointing about this game. It was very, very difficult indeed to die. And I don't mean that in the sort of, I'm awesome, I fucking smashed this game. I mean that in, basically, if you kill enemies, you get a small amount of thermal energy. You can also pick up thermal energy from sort of checkpoints that are dotted around, right? And you can sort of rack up 3, 4, 5,000 thermal energy very, very quickly and easily. If you get hit, and like, let's say 3/4 of your health bar gets taken off, it will instantly recharge at the cost of some of your thermal energy.
Yeah.
But the cost was never high enough that you even noticed at any point in the game.
Right.
So it's basically, unless you get knocked off the edge of the map, which could happen, you stay inside your suit when it's got no health and it's about to explode, because you always get the opportunity to eject yourself. But if you stay in it, and there's some bosses that had one-shot kills.
Yes. Yeah, I remember a couple tough bosses in this.
Yeah. But other than that, it's virtually impossible to die, I found.
This kind of sounds like I should have set you a harder difficulty.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was on normal difficulty, as was the challenge.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Yeah, I was toying with the idea of giving you hard, and I'm slightly regretting that decision now. Just based on the fact that it sounds like you kind of cruise through this a little bit. Not to have made you struggle more, but just to have not made it a challenge as opposed to no challenge at all, which is kind of the impression I'm getting.
I'm not going to say anything because
The game's not challenge. Game's not challenge.
I've had like a day to play this. I might not have done it. Who knows?
Liar!
I know that's an odd complaint to make, but I didn't feel in danger at any point in this game.
Fair enough.
And I wouldn't say any of the fights were hard. There were a couple that were annoying, but I don't think any of them were hard, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Because a lot of the quote-unquote difficulty of the bosses was working out what to do. Once you'd worked out what to do, I don't think it was particularly... Like, a great example is Green Eyes, who we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
One of the bosses takes you back to the first part, like the first area of the game where the intro cutscene and sort of almost tutorial is.
Yeah.
Which is just before your dad gets killed by Green Eyes. And you fight Green Eyes back there. And at first, it's very obvious what to do. He gets some sort of green spots along his side that you have to shoot them all out. And then that takes off some of his health. Or her health. I'm not actually sure what Green Eyes is. Don't know. Their health. And then there's 4 on each side. So once you take out those 8, they then get 4 on their forehead.
Yeah.
And again, very obvious. But then after that, it's still on the forehead where you're meant to shoot, but it looks like it's sort of become the same color of the skin, which is what's happened on the outside, and you can't then use that to damage. So it was very confusing. I didn't know what to do. And couple that with getting quite frustrated because I was adamant that I was hitting the area and I obviously wasn't hitting the area in some occasions. It just made it frustrating. But once you knew what you were doing, it was okay, if that makes sense.
I get what you mean. Yeah, I think that some of the shooting in those bits, it does take a little bit of getting used to, and quite often the crosshair doesn't quite line up with where you're shooting or where the bullets are going to end up. And again, it's a bit of a sign of age on the game's part there.
And also, I think because the bosses, and this is a positive, they're very mobile. A lot of them.
They
so
are,
the area,
yeah.
and they all have like a glowy bit, or it's quite telegraphed for the most part what you're meant to do.
You got to shoot the orange juice out of them basically all
Exactly.
the time.
And and ones that have tentacles that are like flapping around and stuff, and so the
Yeah.
target's constantly moving.
Yeah, and a lot of your weapons, they're very projectile based as well, so you've got to accommodate for the delay in the bullet traveling and sort of thing as well.
Yeah, particularly with some of like the laser and plasma ones that you get.
Yeah, yeah. What did you think of some of the grenades? I quite like some of the grenades in this game.
I only used the hand grenades really. I did pick up a couple of other ones, but I'd use the hand grenades because you could carry 20 of them,
Yeah,
and you'd get 20 very easily. But they were just great for crowd control.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's some proximity mine type things,
And
and I think there's something called a discus bomb.
Yeah, the discus bomb particularly is very cool. You can sort
Which
of throw
it looked
out.
like it was a frisbee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. It's quite unique.
I didn't really use it because I'd pick it up. I'd have 20 grenades, for example. And I'd pick up as like 5. Like, nope, I need 20.
Yeah, I do remember that being a thing in terms of it was affecting my choice of which weapons I would pick up. Not so much the projectiles, but more the sort of the main primary weapons because of the difference in capacities.
Which is silly because another thing, you never run out of ammo in this game ever.
Yes,
It's very, very hard to not find guns.
I'm sure that that's the sort of stuff that would be much harder on the more difficulty settings, but yeah, it sounds like this game is best played on perhaps a slightly harder setting.
Potentially, yeah.
Just one more thing, I was also wondering about how did you find the whole kind of, you can pick up a Gatling gun, you can actually fire that as you can Master Chief style, just holding the Gatling gun, but then you can also carry that and slap that onto a mech, and you can sort of mix and match which guns you attach to your mech as well, and even your vehicles. I think there's like a snow ski, isn't there, which you can stick Gatling guns on the front
I'd never
of.
used it, so I don't know if you can do that. I spent a lot of this game on foot, honestly.
Ah, right, okay.
It was the most efficient method of travel.
Yes, because you are quite slow with the mech, aren't you?
I mean, you're slow walking, but you're very, like, some of the mechs are very slow indeed.
Yeah, you're supposed to use that. I say supposed to use. You can use the sort of the snow ski quite effectively to get around, especially getting between those checkpoints that you mentioned earlier, which you dig out this pole out of the snow, and then it kind of casts like a heat thing around you, doesn't it? Something like that.
That's kind of what the animation does. I don't actually know what it's doing.
Yeah, it's some sort of beacon that you lift up, and
and you
it
can,
kind of gives you
enemies
energy.
have them too, and you can knock them down and then put them back up in your color.
That's right. Yeah.
And stuff like that. But yeah, no, I really didn't use the snowmobile that much, so I can't comment on that. In terms of the things like the guns that you could put on the mechs, it was cool that you could hold them and fire them, but you couldn't move while you were doing it. As in, you couldn't move while you were firing.
Yeah, that's right. And you move very slowly when you're holding them as well. It massively slows down your movement speed, I think.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
And because of that, they were very niche in their usefulness as Wayne on foot.
Standalone weapons, yeah.
But having them so that you could mix and match on your mechs was very cool indeed. I would have possibly liked to see a few more options. I think there was only 4 that I found for the mech, maybe 5, but 2 of them were essentially the same, which is a shotgun, rocket launcher, Gatling gun, and a laser rifle or variants of a laser rifle. And for me, by far the most effective combos were either double Gatling guns or Gatling guns and rocket launcher.
Yeah, definitely. Agreed, yeah.
So very cool stuff, but I would have liked to have seen more options. I wouldn't mind seeing like a saw blade type deal.
Maybe I'm misremembering, but I think that they did put a saw blade into one of the later titles as well. Or maybe I'm just completely misremembering that frisbee grenade as that.
Whilst we're talking about the mechs, this was actually quite disappointing for me, because I wanted it to be really cool and like what you'd expect mech combat to be. And whilst they had everything that you'd want them to have, you had like a glide mode, you could jump, in some of them you could double jump and even jetpack around a little bit.
Yeah.
I just didn't think it was implemented very well. I found the mech stuff all very janky.
Fair enough. Okay.
Do you know what? Janky is not the right word. Clunky. It was very clunky. It all felt very heavy. It didn't feel particularly responsive. You couldn't do the glide for long enough to make it useful before having to stop, but then you could start and do it again straight away. There was no cooldown, so why not just not have it infinitely, but just double the time of it and then put a cooldown on it? That would have been so much better, in my opinion. And then this isn't just exclusive to the mechs, it's kind of a problem with the whole game, really. But I didn't feel that any of the shooting felt particularly satisfying. It all felt very arcadey. It just felt like I was bipping stuff. You know, whereas like a Resident Evil, you sort of almost feel every shot, if you see what I mean.
I do know what you mean. Yeah, the bullets, they don't have much impact to them for the enemies because it usually typically just results in enemies exploding essentially, and which doesn't really give you much to it at all.
Or just falling down and disappearing and turning into a bit of thermal energy. So
yeah,
it was very sort of like you could just run past a lot of things in this game if you sort of saw where the exit was.
Yeah, okay.
And you didn't really need to engage a lot of the time, but you want to engage because there was loads of enemies, and it was really like some of the enemies were cool as, like some of the 8-grid designs were great.
Yeah,
I really were.
Yeah, I really like the design for Green Eyes.
Yeah, Green Eyes is awesome, and it was special because it was bigger than all the other ones that you found,
yeah,
which was nice.
It's the behemoth.
Shout out to one of the later game bosses as well. That's like a giant mouth essentially with like a slug tongue inside it, and it has feelers that come out of the ground, and you have to shoot the hands off it, run into the tunnel. That took me ages to work out, by the way. Run into the tunnel, shoot it a bit, and then good stuff.
I think I did do this on one of the harder difficulties, and I remember that one being quite challenging actually on hard.
You mentioned there that you thought some of the bosses were hard in this game. I'm curious, which ones do you particularly remember giving you troubles?
Well, so it was the boss that you just described, the sort of the giant, I guess like kind of tentacly Sarlacc pit style.
That's a great
monster.
way, yeah. It's kind of like a Sarlacc pit's mouth, isn't it?
Yeah. And I also remember on the harder difficulty, I found the actual fight where you're fighting the lady in the other mech. That one really forced me to actually get good at the maneuverability in the mech. And as you say, the controls are slightly clunky. It definitely takes some mastering before you can use it reliably. And that was a difficult point for me that had made me had to reliably learn how to dodge and maneuver the mech as well as just shoot things.
That's really funny because I found that incredibly easy because the first thing she did was back into a corner and she got stuck. So I just
shot her. Wow.
Literally, she just backed into because I was going towards her, so she like did the back jump thing that you can do.
Yeah.
And went into a corner, obviously got caught in some debris, and then was just like,
there you go.
I do know it's pronounced debris, by the way, before anyone.
All right, yeah. I started to wonder for myself then, is he serious? Yes, it sounds like you got a little bit lucky there in terms of that, but then on the scheme of things and on balance, it sounds like you wouldn't have been struggling particularly hard anyway, given that your experience with the rest of the game.
It's hard to say, really, because there's only one other boss fight that you do where it's mech versus mech. And in that one, which is against Bandero, who is the most anime villain you've ever seen in your life. He's got pale skin, like the whole goth sort of aesthetic, and he's got silly hair, which all anime evil guys have. Like he's got sort of 2 ponytails that come down like his fringe.
Yeah.
It's very odd, but I'm here for it. But he's the only other guy you fight sort of mech to mech, and you do that in a room full of pillars. So I found that the way to beat that boss very easily was just hide behind a pillar, wait for his rocket attack to finish, nip out, shoot him a few times, go back behind the pillar, rinse, repeat. You didn't really need to maneuver.
Right.
So
sounds a bit similar to my Borderlands final boss fight.
It wasn't dissimilar to that at all, except for like he doesn't hit as hard, basically.
Right.
If you do fuck up and you like get hit, I mean, again, the issue I described earlier, it's very hard to die in this game, but I never felt in danger anyway. And it wasn't taking much health off my mech either. It was bizarre. But yeah, so I don't think I ever mastered the mech combat in this, because then, the main antagonist, who's called Eisenberg, and essentially he's been sort of tricking everyone in the game. We mentioned earlier that NEFFEX are sort of the evil corporation guys. He's the head of NEFFEX.
Right.
And he has tricked everyone. He's literally tricked everyone into trying to get his own way. Like he tricked Yuri's dad back in the day.
Right.
He tricked Yuri. He tricked everyone because the other sort of I'm getting a bit all over the place. But the other main sort of story beat that comes up is that you've actually, in fact, been frozen for 30 years.
Oh, it wasn't. Yeah. Okay. So you're not just a fresh cookie.
No, but because of a prototype implant special metal arm you've got, you just didn't age at all.
Okay, not because you were frozen, but because of the.
No, that's it's anime as fuck. It really is. And on those arms, you have like a little receptacle, and your mate Yuri, who saved you, is the guy who designed the final piece of the prototype, and you put it in, and then you can unlock the true potential of your dad's VR suit.
Right. Okay.
Or VS suit, sorry, not VR
VS.
suit.
Yeah.
But no, so once you've unlocked your full potential of your VS suit, you become a bladey boy with jetpacks, you're flying about, you've got your mad anime energy going through you.
Super Saiyan.
Well, kind of, you do sort of Super Saiyan it a little bit, with the added caveat that you might lose your memory again.
Oh, right.
By using the implant, because anime.
It always comes at a cost.
Has to be a cost. And it's worth noting that this cost is even greater because throughout your journey, you sort of form a relationship with one of Yuri's crew called Luca. And it's sort of implied that her and Wayne have a little thing going on.
Okay. Have a little thang. Little bang.
Well, no, I don't think they bang, but,
Too
I think they want
PG-13
to.
for that. They were thinking about it.
Yeah, I think, she's the anime love interest.
Right.
And disappointingly, the Eisenberg chap that you fight also has a big old jetpacky VS suit.
Oh, very convenient. You can have your kind of kaiju showdown.
Yeah, but it's sort of like just before that you're told that, oh yes, this is, your arm is the prototype that will unlock the potential of this one-of-a-kind unique VS suit, and then matey's got one. It's just like, oh, really?
Yeah.
And his is better because he can call out floating laser guns, and
oh shit,
he can fire rockets at you and stuff. It's like,
I've
what?
forgotten about that.
Yeah, but this final boss fight was, for me, the toughest boss fight in the game, which is probably how it should be.
Rightly so, yeah.
Although once you know what you're doing, it can be slightly trivialized.
Again, a recurring theme. You mentioned that some of the other bosses, you had the same kind of thing.
Yeah, but this more so because you can almost do it without getting hit once you know what to do.
Right, okay.
In terms of getting the rhythm of the fight and strafing downwards when he's doing a certain attack to then swing your blade in a vertical slice upwards, and then moving sideways at just the right point to then dodge his attack and then get one in yourself
Right.
becomes a bit more of a timing game. Not quite a rhythm game like Sekiro, but it becomes a bit more time dependent. Whereas the other fights, you can sort of run around like a headless chicken and just fire at will, really. But this one I actually died to a bunch because when you get him down to like a third health, he goes into absolute madman mode, just constantly firing rockets, constantly getting his lasers to fire. He gets a second laser as well. So he's firing at you. He's got two floating lasers firing at you. One of them goes off into loads of different directions at the same time. It's a bit crazy. Becomes a bit of a light show. Like, don't play this game if you've got epilepsy, honestly. But no, so as I've sort of implied, once you know what you're doing, it's a very easy final boss fight. I was able to kick this man's ass. I did lose my memory at the end, but you then randomly meet Luca again as she's sort of...
It's all good then.
Continuing Yuri's work and trying to heat up the planet and make it habitable, but without destroying everything, doing it naturally.
Right.
Heating up a little bit, but
yeah.
not blasting it,
Right, yeah, taking a bit more of a gentle approach to converting the planet.
Exactly. And then there's a lovely bit at the end where Wayne is just randomly walking past, and she's like, oh, "Is it you?" And he's like, he's completely forgotten who she is. And like,
yeah.
And he's just like, "I'm just me." And she's like, "Where am I?" And then she realizes what's going on, and then she's like, but she looks happy, and she's like, "Where are my manners? I'm Luca. Nice to meet you." And then he just does like a cheesy grin, pans away. Credits roll.
Yeah.
Your boy won the challenge.
Congratulations, man. Congratulations. That means, James, that you have won the 2022 TPM Game Challenge Award.
The inaugural champion.
The inaugural champion. You have been baptized in glory.
Everyone always remembers the first.
Congratulations, man! A very, very well-deserved victory. You've had some highs in this challenge. You've had some lows, and and you've had some difficulties along the way. But hey, we call this a game challenge because it's been a challenge at times.
Yeah, I've got to say, this game particularly, I probably rate it in the average category. There was enough cool things going on that I was like, okay, cool. This game, I like what it's trying to do. And the story, for all I've been joking about it being very anime, it was actually a very nice story, very nicely told. But it was just let down perhaps by its age, maybe, in all honesty. I try and do these as objectively as possible, but sometimes my opinion possibly come into it in terms of things like quality of life and better mechanics in modern games and things like that. But it was also let down a bit by possibly being too ambitious for its time. And I don't mean that necessarily negatively. I like what it was trying to put down. I just think it possibly could have implemented it better.
I think that you would potentially enjoy some of the later titles because I know they added in a lot more movement options. I think by the second one, they'd actually added in a grappling hook and things, which
the grappling hook's in the first one too.
But it's much more kind of, you can hook to a lot more surfaces, I should say, in the second game, so you can actually use it a bit more freely.
As I say, I have played Lost Planet 3 a little bit, and I remember enjoying it, but I don't know if playing this one through to completion has given me enough impetus to go and try 2 and 3.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm certainly going to give it some thought, because as I say, I'm quite curious to know what happens next.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good fun time. I think you quoted it as being 8 hours 14 as a completionist. I did it in about 5, just over.
Oh wow, okay, yeah, nice.
Yeah,
one.
and I didn't skip anything, so it was like watching all the cutscenes and stuff. So really short game.
Following up from Metal Gear Solid, which is a game that I hold in sort of absolutely high regard, this was more of a game that I would class as worth playing, sort of thing. It introduces some interesting concepts. Overall, I enjoyed my playthrough of it. It certainly hasn't stuck in my head as like a kind of an absolute game changer or a franchise that I've followed closely from that point onwards, but I am glad to hear that you had some fun with this game and that you've got some positive things to say about it, because it's a game that I enjoyed myself and thought it was very fitting, as we've said before, considering the current weather right now.
Very
the season that we're
thematically
in.
accurate, yeah. Lots of snow. Hopefully we don't get that much here, because that'll make driving about hell.
Time to get the snow tyres out, or time to purchase some snow tyres.
Don't they just tie chains around the tyres? That's what they do, right? Put tennis rackets on your shoes.
That'll do. Just put nails in your tyres. I hear that works really well. Just put the nails in the tyres and that'll...
Well, to be fair, it would deflate your tyres and it would increase the surface area of your tyre. So in theory on snow, that would actually be good.
There you go.
Solid advice there.
Listen up,
the wondrous
everyone.
Will, yeah.
Put nails in your tyres before you drive out in the snow.
And on that public service announcement...
We don't actually have a follow-up game challenge this week.
We do
We
not.
are done for a year.
Well, not quite a year.
Not quite a year, no. We're done for 2022.
2022 game challenge, done,
You got
dusted.
the belt for a year. You got the belt.
Until we come back with the games challenge, I can gloat as the champion. I can lord it over you, Will. I look forward to receiving my belt.
I look forward to taking that belt from you next year.
We'll see. So with that rampant victory there, roaring home, first place, top of the league, El Campione, all this gloating, words, superlatives, that brings us to the end of the show. And slightly different for next week, not quite normal schedule. Obviously, as people will know, we're coming up to the festive period. It's that time of year where we let fat old men come down our chimney and fiddle around with our personal belongings before eating some cookies, milk, and leaving again.
Cookies and milk. For us, we used to give them brandy and mince pies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, our Santa Claus is an alcoholic that just scoffs mince pies. You give him cookies and milk.
Well, yeah, man. You know, the milk's to sort of line the stomach for people like you that give him the booze.
Right.
Without the teamwork here, it wouldn't work.
Right.
He'd just get pissed and crash into a tree or something.
Yeah, he needs to sober up after all the brandy.
But no, we are entering that time of year. So next week's episode will not be coming out on Monday, because Monday is Boxing Day, and we can't have a Christmas episode coming out on Boxing Day, can
Let's
we?
face it.
No. So next week's episode of Total Pod Mode will be coming out a day early. I know.
You
Lucky people.
lucky listeners.
I know, right? But yes, the Christmas episode will be airing on Christmas Day. So be sure to check that out, because it'll be a festive good time.
We've got plenty of treats in store for you.
Oh, yes. So whilst you pop that in your diaries and get ready to join us in festivities and cheer, we leave you for another week. And if you have enjoyed what you've listened to, you can, as always, find the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and pretty much anywhere else you get podcasts. Just search Total Pod Mode and you're sure to find us. And we also post regular video content of our playthroughs, stream highlights, as well as the podcast on our YouTube channel, Total Pod Mode.
You can also find us on Twitter by searching for @TotalPodMode, all one word.
And whilst you're there, you can find me at Mr. Bames. And I'm also on Twitch under twitch.tv/MrBames_TPM.
And you can find me at WhoDaFunk on Twitter, and I'm also on Twitch under twitch.tv/WhoDaFunk.
And with that, it's goodbye from your champion.
And goodbye from the loser, I guess.